Hi, welcome back to TinkerTricks. So I wanted to show you this part that I made. I received a broken 3D printer in the mail. Like a couple of printers, this is a FlashForge Dreamer NX, and like a couple of printers I've received, the Y-axis guide rods had basically come undone. And normally it's just you snap them back into place and everything's good as new. But in this case, it turned out that this corner bracket piece that held one of the rods had actually, it snapped. They tried to save material and they made it hollow in some places that they shouldn't. And so, spoiler alert, I copied it. So in the black, you have this original piece. I'm not sure if you can see. I actually stacked the broken pieces on top of each other, but this is very much broken. And on the left is actually not the final version, but it's close enough. This is a copy I made of it. And you can see over here, this is, it in its final configuration. So you have two pieces. One that the pulley piece rests in, and another that pushes it into place. You tighten these two bolts here. And additionally, there's some other design constraints. There's a lot of things involved in this. At first, I wasn't sure I even wanted to copy it. I looked it up, and I think maybe I could have gotten the piece for $10 plus shipping. And then I thought, hey, what's the point of 3D printing if you're gonna buy stuff that you can just 3D print yourself? And so I spent a good few hours copying it. And there's some interesting design considerations here. This white piece, there's actually a smooth metal rod underneath it, and this has to spin. And in the native element, you can see this hole is actually bigger, and that's because there's a proper bearing. And unfortunately, I couldn't find it in the box, that it came with, and that's why I made this hole smaller. And so I filed it down to make it smooth, and I added a little bit of grease, and I think it's just going to work just fine. And then this big hole over here, that actually is where the Y-axis guide rod fits in. So that has to be in just the right place, or you're going to be bending things. And then this main piece here, that's what holds the pulley system. And so those are some important areas that'll have to be lined up perfectly. And then you also have these holes over here. I'm going to switch over to the Tinkercad file. You have I'm going to copy this, Control C, Control V, so I don't ruin my original copy. And I'm going to ungroup it so you can see what this is made of. And I'm going to ungroup this piece too. So it's just two pieces. This piece wasn't so difficult. This presses into place over here. The pulley goes over here, and then this little piece on top of it presses it into place, and you tighten with these two bolts. And if I just ungroup everything involved in this piece, this isn't really so complicated, though it took me a little while to get it right. So first, you have these holes, and they're not just cylinders around the holes, it's a cylinder square combo. So if I were to just group these alone, you can see it looks like that. And then the actual part that I'm just hiding everything I don't need. The actual part that pushes down on the cylinder, on the pulley system. This is, I'm sorry, I hit something I didn't want to. Well, first I had to make it a semicircle. So I used this hollow box and combined it with the cylinder. And then I made a larger cylinder that carved out a shape throughout the whole semi-cylinder. And then finally, one last cylinder, you can see, so that it's not just, here, let me flip this. Oops. You can see it's actually got a groove on the inside for the bearing to rest in. So it's not just, a semi-cylinder going all the way through. There's a little pocket here. And that actually printed pretty well. So let's regroup all of those. Just going to Control Z until I get back to my original file. Set that aside. So that wasn't too difficult. And then the rest of this was a little bit more difficult. So you can see, just how many shapes this is. And, really it is just, squares and cylinders, like almost everything I make, except for one piece did require a shape generator. And so that piece over here is, I actually used this piece a few times. That piece over here is a box with a shape generator. It's actually, it's a double shape generator. I'm sorry, so I combined the shape generator with something else and then combine that with my box. So let's back up here a little bit. This, if I ungroup this, I'm on my laptop right now, and that's also probably why my sound might be a little bit different. I'm actually using a better microphone, but I'm not used to it. I don't know if it's going to sound good or not. In the first place, I have this box. About that. This right here, you can see this is the shape with that curve. So this is the metal fillet tool. Go to the generator. It's on the page. Go to the all shapes generator, 1415 page. I wish they'd provide a good search function, but is really the shape I need. I originally made this. I made it just like an L shape, sharp corner. It absolutely did not fit, so to curve it like the original. If I can find the side, it doesn't just make this L shape, it's actually curved and it conforms very well. And so I combine that with this square to get that curve over here that you can see in this final finished product. I basically just align that with two regular rectangles. So if you go back to the original here, you can see let's just hide a bunch of stuff. A little less cluttered now. So I have this red rectangle, and then I combine that with this. I'm sorry, the red rectangle is not the part that I combine. This part right here. I really messed this up, haven't I? Let's show everything again. This is all my fault because I removed everything. Let's Control Z, Control Z, Control Z. All right, there I am. And so there's my meta fillet piece. And so over here I have this rectangle, and then over here I have another rectangle, and I just combine those two to get that smooth curve. Moving on, I did something similar with these support pieces that make it stronger. Originally I just had triangles, but then I thought this looked nicer. So these I just used the metal fillet tool directly to get that smooth surface. And I just aligned it by eye. It's not really a crucial area, but I just aligned it by eye to get it roughly matching up. I did the same with this piece over here. So I carved out the insides so it looked a little nicer. All of these holes, they're just holes. I aligned them relative to each other, and I basically figured that at the end I was going to have to adjust things by eye anyway. So I tried my best to get everything as close to how it should be from the start. And it was actually pretty good. I didn't have to do adjusting that much, but I did have to move things a couple of millimeters, at one case. And you're just going to have to expect that. So you try your best, and then you print it, you see how things lined up, and you adjust a couple of times. It took me about 3 tries. And this over here, I've got this, this is that holds the rods. And I have it like this. Once again, if I hide everything, the files get a little troublesome when they have this many, basic components that, you can make them in blocks, but I try to keep them ungrouped until the very end. And if I group this, you can see I've got, this little chamber here, and there's a hole going all the way through. And I actually don't know why that hole is there. It doesn't seem to do anything in the original file, but I copied it anyway. And the same thing with these support triangles. This is a fairly crucial area. I guess they want to make it rigid. Same thing with this guy. This is the part they actually made hollow in the original, and instead I just I made it solid, as solid as 3D printed is. And then I added these triangles. For the most part, I pretty much followed the original design as faithfully as I could, and the places I deviated were where it didn't really matter. So it's injection molded, and they did some things to make it better for injection molding. I didn't follow that. Over here they have, actually I see they recessed these holes just a little bit, maybe for the nuts. I didn't do that, but for the most part, it's a pretty faithful reconstruction, and I'm quite happy with it. It is functional. My printer is working right now, and so I'm pretty happy with that. And so that's the, just a little overview of this whole piece. I'm kind of proud of this. It's, really going full circle with 3D printing. Starting from a 3D printer and then fixing another printer. Actually, the printer that I bought, I printed this with to fix my new one. It actually also was bought as broken printer that I printed a replacement for, but that was, over a year ago, and like 2 years ago actually, and it was something I just found on Thingiverse. I didn't design it myself. So this time I actually just did design it myself, and I'm proud of myself. I've gone a long way since then. So that's my longest video yet. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.